Well, Bilal, on this Independence Day, we're hearing more and more from the Taliban as it puts together its future government with meetings apparently ongoing between Taliban leaders and members of the former Afghan government.
Well, we have to really remember the Taliban are no more the shadow government. They control all of Afghanistan now. 6 months ago, they would be negotiating with the Afghan government and Republic side. Today, they don't have to do that, but they understand in order to get international legitimacy, in order to get future funding from the international community, and also to prevent further opposition to their government, they have to form an inclusive government. We really don't know who could be joining such a government in the future, what will be their role, what will be the model. But Taliban officials are clearly indicating that it'll have to be an Islamic government. Obviously, Afghanistan always had an Islamic government, so it's open to many interpretations. And I know that within the Taliban political leadership, there's a sense of urgency about trying to be flexible and adopt to the political and social transformations that Afghanistan has had over the last 20 years. So how the Taliban move from fighting into governance, how do they keep Afghanistan functional as a country, the state, the bureaucracy, what happens to the future of security forces, for example, because the Afghan National Security Forces all crumbled. Billions of US dollars were invested in building them. But the Taliban today have ample amounts of weapons, ammunitions, helicopters, planes, and they have access to some of the best weapons in the world that any army could have. So everyone is waiting anxiously. How could the next transition and the road to political settlement look like?
And meanwhile, Bilal, frantic evacuations out of the country are ongoing. What more can you tell us?
This is the 11th hour that the Americans in the international community is trying to evacuate thousands of, their own citizens, let alone thousands of Afghans, including women and children, who are in hiding, who simply don't feel comfortable going to the airport. At the airport itself, thousands of Afghans, including women and children, are trying, to have safe passage. On one hand, you have got the Taliban manning the checkpoint on the outside where there are blast walls. On the other side, it's the Americans in a special forces unit that used to be under the Afghan intelligence service in the former government. So we will have to see how this is done. I've been able to speak to certain Afghans who are on such, resettlement plans. They said it is sending shockwaves every time they hear these Western countries put a timeline, artificial timelines, on such evacuation plans, that this would take longer, that this should be done, where a humanitarian corridor should be established. So this is easier said than done, although time and again we hear Western officials, painting a rosy picture saying this evacuation is successful. It also actually shows you after 20 years of massive investments in blood and treasure, billions of dollars of taxpayers' money spent from these Western countries, this is the end result, that the situation is so bad that they cannot safely evacuate their own citizens, forget about Afghans.
Now, Bilal, on Wednesday, we saw this deadly protest take place against the Taliban in the city of Jalalabad. Are we now seeing an opposition movement growing against the insurgents?
I think it's important to clarify it wasn't an anti-Taliban protest. A very big number of Afghans simply went and brought down the Taliban flag, which represents the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan, and replaced it with a national flag. And as they were doing that, Taliban soldiers opened fire. There were scuffles. Some reporters were beaten up in the eastern city of Jalalabad, and where we had at least four, civilians were shot dead, at least 13 people were wounded. In the southeastern city of Khost, I saw myself locals clashing with members of the Haqqani network, saying, "Why are you preventing, us from putting our flag? This is Afghanistan." Eventually, what happened there was a member of the Haqqani network, a Taliban commander, raised the flag himself and said, "Fair enough, it's my flag as well." And that situation was brought under control. But these incidents shows you the type of challenges the Taliban face in terms of a changed Afghanistan, in terms of the social transformations that there have been. You have a generation of Afghans younger who feel attachment and emotions to the flag. They have access to internet, they have access to Facebook. And you have to also remember that there is a very big number of Afghans who have the same emotional attachment to the Taliban flag. So how Afghanistan moves ahead, with certain issues like the flag, will also determine the political settlement, the political future of Afghanistan.
Okay, Bilal Sarwary, a journalist based in Kabul, thank you very much for being with us once again here on France 24.